What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us here today on the VSO Gun Channel. Quick one here today talking about labeling of magazines. We had a question specifically asking, how do you guys label your magazines? And by that, I'm assuming they mean what kind of pen do you use, and we'll get to that here in a second, but this is a good opportunity to talk about the underlying concept of labeling your magazines. So if you take nothing from this, there are three things that go on a magazine. One, some kind of numerical designator, so that it's unique to that particular magazine. That designation, so if you're going back and looking and saying, hey, I had so many malfunctions with this particular magazine, then you know that you need to maybe pull that one and evaluate it. Whoa, did you see that? Check this out. Did you see it? This is what landed just here. Oh. So we go through a lot of magazines here, for instance. Every gun that comes in for evaluation gets 1,500 rounds of minimum through it. So we can go back through and say, hey, you know, magazine 2 failed in this gun 6 out of the 10 times that the gun had a problem. Hey, maybe that particular magazine needs to be pulled and evaluated. Feed lips can stretch, springs can get loose, followers can get chipped, the magazine can just get dirty. So it gives you some kind of indicator that you need to give some love to that particular magazine. If you want to know how to clean a magazine, I have a dedicated video on how to clean AR-15 magazines. Link for that will be in the description. In addition to that numerical designator, you need to know whose they are. Well, most of the magazines that you see here on the channel are group magazines. So I have a pile of magazines that are used by the group so that they don't have to dirty their own mags. The range mags that we use for testing or the range mags that we use for testing, they need not dirty their duty magazines, if you will. So they typically don't have initials on them, but that's what I suggest, is that your initials go on the magazine somewhere as well, so that you know it's yours. Now, the next one I will say is kind of situation specific. If you're going to go to a lot of training courses, then I suggest that you have some kind of extra unique designator. So these are mags that I take to training courses where they're actually older and have a greater incidence of malfunction, but also you can see that they're wrapped in Hello Kitty tape. And that tells me that, at least I thought at the time, that was a good idea, that if I wrapped Hello Kitty duct tape on it, then nobody else in the training course would have it. Well, that particular class had 60 students in it, and I learned that there are actually 4 different variations of Hello Kitty duct tape at the time. So that, paired with the engraving that I put on the bottom of the metal magazine, let me know that it was indeed my magazine that was on the ground, because I'm not saying that somebody goes around and has nefarious intent to pick up and steal your magazines, but there's only so many manufacturers out there that are making these things, and there is a pretty good chance that if you go to a training course, somebody else is going to be using the same magazine that you are. So as far as individually marking them, I have 2 different things that I use typically. First is a Sharpie. Okay, I prefer the silver ones because most of my magazines are black anyway. So Sharpies work. These are good for basically your metal magazines. There's a better option out there in the paint pen for anything that's polymer, especially anything like, for instance, the Mission First tactical magazine that has a grid on it on the bottom, and that allows you to basically put that paint down in some recesses that you can't really do very easily with a Sharpie versus the paint pen. And I just got these are all from like Walmart or some department store somewhere. We have a hobby store. So you can see those 2 side by side. Obviously the white paint pen is going to be a little bit more prolific, but if I go like this, you can see that we have issues with the fact that there's anodizing on this magazine, and it prevents the paint from really soaking into the surface, and therefore the Sharpie it remains. And this will be better if you allow this to dry. I mean, that's obviously dramatized for the purposes of doing this, but you can see that the paint is going to wear off of a metal magazine faster. Now, if we go to the Mission First Tactical magazine here, this is the Extreme Duty magazine. This is our preferred mag for everything. We can see that we have a grid here on the bottom. So just for the heck of it, we're just going to call this one X. So in doing so, you can see that we've pushed some of that paint down inside the recesses of the designation grid. And what that means is even if I were to take this and run it across a piece of sandpaper, that paint would still be down inside the grid and I'd still be able to tell which one it is. So likewise, we're just going to call this one X. We'll write it on both sides, and you'll see that the polymer is relatively absorbent. We'll just leave these set. I've gone ahead and off camera marked the metal magazine with test on the side of it, and we're going to let them sit for 5 minutes. Metal magazine. Okay, and you can see that it's dry. I mean, it's more flaky than anything else. Go after that. It still smudges because it's still a little bit wet, but you can see that even if I keep doing this, that polymer has absorbed some of that paint. Same thing on the other side. See, I can get some of the excess to move, but the polymer magazine has soaked that in. Well, I hope that helps you out a little bit. Metal magazines get permanent marker, polymer magazines get paint pens. I think I bought this like 2 years ago. It's the only one that I have, and it's still going strong, as you guys saw. Plenty of paint left in it. As long as you don't lose it, one's pretty much all you need. Now, on the flip side, I lose permanent markers like nobody's business. Hope that you guys enjoyed this video, found it helpful. Thanks for subscribing to the VSO Gun Channel. Hopefully we'll see you guys on a future video.